I need to decide which solar charge controller to purchase, and there are a lot of calculators on the internet that let you put in various parameters, and it will recommend a solar charge controller. But I quite like this one. This is on faroutride.com, and it's quite a nice simple interface, and it just asks for the maximum power, the open circuit voltage, and the short circuit current. So this is Photonic Universe. These are the panels that I bought. I bought 2 of these, and these are the specifications. So the max power, peak power is 150 watts, open circuit voltage 20.92 volts, short circuit current 9.23 amps. So if we key that into there, so that's 150 watts, 20.92 volts, and 9.23 amps. And if I have them in series, it is recommending the Victron MPPT 100/30, so that's 100 volts, 30 amps. So the calculated figures are total power 300 watts, open circuit voltage 50.2, so the 50.2 is well within the 100, and max charge current 20.4, which is well within the 30. I could put them in parallel, the two, wrong way, in parallel, and it still recommends the same solar charge controller. So I've got options there. I will, in practice, put them in series because the higher voltage will work better with a reasonably long run on the pre-MPPT controller side. So if this is mounted close to the batteries, I've got a reasonably long run from the solar panels across the van to the MPPT controller. So this Victron MPPT 100/30 is what I'll go for, and the smart solar, so it's got the Bluetooth and the VE direct connection, and will handle lithium batteries. So I'm going to get myself one of those. The recommendation is always to try and mount the solar charge controller as close to the battery as possible. This is the battery down here under the driver's seat, and there isn't really space nor sufficient suitable mounting points to mount it here, I don't think, unfortunately. So it makes sense to try and get it into the bottom of this side locker, along with the Multiplus and the Servo GX. This is the footprint of the MPPT 130, and it won't quite go down there. I might be able to move this over a bit. Similarly, it won't sit vertically. It's going to be a little too tall to sit along there. Obviously I can mount it above the lower shelf, that's an option, but I don't really want to do that. So I think the most appropriate location is going to be here. It looks like it might just fit, but one thing I can do is I can swing the Servo GX round and mount that vertically further over, and that should give me sufficient space to mount the solar charge controller on this this piece of wood here. So that's what I'm going to do. So yes, by swinging the Servo GX round and mounting it vertically, I got enough room in there to get the solar charge controller onto that back panel. So that's good. Keeps it nice and neat. So here in the cupboard above the wardrobe, the first thing I need to do is mount this circuit breaker somewhere underneath where the solar cables will come in, so that I can isolate the feed from the solar panels. But I also need to find a route across to the MPPT solar charge controller, and in order to do that, I think what I'll do is see if I can take off this false panel. It looks like it's been covered up with strips, and we'll see what's behind there, see what our options are for routing cables down and through the van. Over this side, the screws are just covered up with these little Burstner stickers, and I've got some spares of those, so that's not too bad. But over here, somebody's done a pretty enthusiastic job of sticking a strip down this side, and it's pretty heavily glued on, but by rubbing a fingernail and guessing, I reckon I can feel where the screws are. So I'm just going to cut through there and get the screws out at either side, and then I can use the Burstner stickers. I bought a pack from Camper UK. I can use the Burstner stickers to cover that back up again. So yeah, with the screws out, this panel comes away, and indeed there are some cable runs down in that corner down there. And it looks like down here in the wardrobe, this is also a false panel, so I think that's got to come off as well, which unfortunately means taking the wardrobe hanger rail off as well. Oh well, has to be done. So once the side panel of the wardrobe is removed, what can I say? Wow, lots of connections going on down here. We've got mains over that side. You've got 12 volts, because that's obviously where they've taken a feed up to the motorhome Wi-Fi aerial. We've got the Vision Plus, the aerial booster. That's drawing current. We don't use that, so I might disconnect that. But yeah, lots of cabling, all nicely labelled, so should be easy to work out what everything does. But that's not important, because all I'm interested in is whether I can get cables down and through the floor. And there's certainly a lot of space going down there into the subfloor, so yeah, it looks quite promising for routing my cables down from up here as they come from the isolator. Well, after taking half the van apart and having a good poke around under the floor, although it's a double skin, there is not an easy way that I can find of getting cables from one side of the van to the other. So I think this is the drawer beneath the fridge. I think the best option is to go straight through the floor and out under the underside of the van. That square thing there is a gas drop vent which comes out underneath, so I can see that between there and the cables on the wall it's clear of anything underneath. There's no structural members or anything like that, but there is a double skin, so I'm going to go gingerly through the top skin and then poke a long rod through and make sure there's nothing in the way before using a longer drill to go through the bottom skin as well. So here we go. So looking beneath the van, I reckon about 130mm from the centre of the gas drop vent, so somewhere around here it should be nice and clear underneath. I don't know what's running under here, but there's a wheel arch there, so it should be clear. So around 130mm, just about there. Let's put a scribble. I should be okay to at least go through the top skin there, and I'll do the top skin first so that if there's anything underneath it's nice and easy to seal back up again. Right, so that's straight through. Well, a couple of screws and the gas drop vent comes out. I gingerly drilled through the top skin and then had a probe about with a wooden cocktail stick or kebab skewer, make sure there was nothing underneath, and with the gas drop vent out I can get an endoscope in there. I then went through with this, which is a 16mm drill, and to enlarge the hole, and then finally this is a 260mm masonry drill, because it's quite a long way down to the bottom skin, but with the gas drop vent out I could actually see that I wasn't going to hit anything. My next plan is this is an oval section bit of conduit, electrical conduit, which is big enough to take the two 2 wires. So my plan is to put that all the way through both skins and squirt a load of CT1 around it to seal it, and then I should have a nice route through from beneath the drawer beneath the fridge through to the underside of the van. Well, a bit dark under here, but there it is, through pretty much exactly where I wanted it. So in line with the gas drop vent, out of the way of the wheels, and there's a hole in the chassis member here in this outrigger, so I can bring the solar cables down through here and then down and along the main chassis member down to the front and then across to the other side. So yeah, I would have liked to have run through the middle of the van through the false floor, but it was just proving too difficult. So here we go, next best solution. Well, I roughened up the surface slightly and put a good dollop of CT1 up from underneath and above. Give that a smooth around, and then we let that dry for a day or so before I try feeding any cables through it. Back up on the roof of the van, I was able to fish the cables through the cable entry gland and get them nicely sealed in there. It was a bit fiddly, but I got them through eventually. I've terminated the cables with the MC4 connectors. The 2 panels are connected in series, and I've measured the voltage across. I'm getting 40 odd volts out of them, so that's working fine. I haven't connected the cables running down into the van yet because I haven't attached the circuit breaker inside, so I don't want any current flowing through until I'm ready. I've left plenty of slack internally, and I've just crimped a pair of bootlace ferrules onto the end so that when the time comes to crimp them into the circuit breaker, they're all ready to go. So yep, so far so good. Well, always nerve-wracking drilling holes in the floor of the van, but I think somewhere around here should be a safe place to go through. So here goes. There we are, and enlarge that with a 15mm torch drill. Okay, that's my route in from the outside. I ran the cables through this 20mm conduit, flexible conduit first, to give them a bit of added protection, and then ran them along underneath the van. Difficult to see exactly, but they come across the top of the step. You can use ordinary 22mm pipe clips to secure them, and then I was able to run them across on top of the grey waste tank and out the other side, so they're well clear of anything that moves, well clear of anything that's hot, and nicely clipped into position. Final 22mm pipe clip, and then they go up through the floor, through that piece of oval conduit that I installed the other day. Out of the conduit, P-clipped to the other cables and through up into the base of the wardrobe, where they join the other cables going up this electrical riser up into the cupboard above the wardrobe. So I do believe the false panel, side panel of the wardrobe, can now go back on. Now before I do so, I'm going to take some high-res photos of those cables for future reference, the ones that are labelled, because I think that'd be useful. Well, the circuit breaker's installed, haven't put the cover on yet. These cables that run across to the MPPT controller, I've left some slack behind this panel so that the panel can move forward if it needs to. Always a struggle trying to get fat cables into a small circuit breaker like this, but the bootlace ferrules help a lot. At least it means that you know you've got every strand crimped and you're not in danger of a stray whisker shorting across to the other terminal. So yeah, they help a lot, but yeah, it was a struggle, but they've got in there. I still need to put the covers on the screws and have a bit of a vacuum round, but yeah, we're finished at this end. So I've wired the solar charge controller into the positive terminal here. And one of the brilliant things about something like this Fogstar drift battery is, see that blue button? You can turn the battery off, which is lovely if you need to work on the live terminal like that. And then I've put an inline fuse. This is a 40 amp maxi blade fuse in an inline fuse holder. The cable is good for 60 amps. The charge controller can put out a maximum of 30 amps, so 40 amps. Falls nicely in between, so that should protect the cable. Well, I've still got a little bit of tidying up to do, but I think I'm just about there now. The solar panels are wired into the solar charge controller, batteries wired into the solar charge controller. Charge controller is connected to the Servo GX via a VE direct cable. Everything's powered on. The power on sequence is connect the battery first so that it can work out that it's a 12 volt, not a 24 volt system. Then connect the Servo GX so that it can talk to it, and then connect the solar panels. So I did that. Everything's talking, so let's have a look at what it's generating. Well, it's a really overcast day, but we are generating just over 100 watts coming from the two solar charge controllers. So this is the new one, the 100/30, putting out 70 watts at the moment, and this is the old one connected to the factory installed 100 watt panel, and that's just putting out 22 watts. But between the two of them, they're putting 4.65 amps into the battery, and so the battery is charging. We're not taking anything from the grid. We're using about 20 watts to run everything that's in the van at the moment, and this was down at 21% this morning, so it's gone up to 26% already, and it's only 10:30 in the morning. So yeah, all working as hoped. Solar panel installation complete. False floor of the side lockers back in, and yeah, it's all gone in there fairly neatly.